All right. Well, it's a Thursday
Yeah.
night, and we've got a repeat customer for our Thursday night spotlight. And Terry, when did we
Hi.
have you on before? Was it a year and a half ago now?
Oh, it was over 2 years, John. It
Over
was
two
it,
years ago.
it was
Wow.
back early August of 2020.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Yeah. A lot has happened since then.
A lot has
Oh,
happened,
yeah.
and I can't wait to dive into the topic tonight. So Terry is one of our great local triathletes and cyclists, and Bob will get into this more. And it's going to be a lot of fun to talk with Terry because she had a great international experience, or a unique one that I
Unique.
think it's going to be fun to share some details on. But before I get too far and get in trouble, I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the official introduction.
All right. Thank you, John. And welcome, Terry. It's a really pleasure having you on again tonight. And
Yeah, thanks.
one of the reasons, we wanted to have you on is because of your race in Challenge Almere in the Netherlands. So we're going to talk about that. For the folks who are listening, Terry is just an amazing cyclist, and she does races like 200-mile solo races, and
Hmm.
you've done 500-mile relays, and sometimes your relay partners don't show up, and you just do the whole thing yourself.
Something like
It's like
that.
it's like who does that, So that's fun. And Terry has done everything, sprints, Olympics, 70.3s, and we're going to talk about her Ironman iron distance race in Challenge Almere. So welcome, Terry, and how you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank
Yeah, you
you.
look fine. You look like you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and so I got
Thanks.
a question just to get started.
Mhm.
Tell me about your and for the folks who are listening, your cycling background. How is it that you became such an endurance, a long distance, ultra distance cyclist?
I'm nuts. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think we can
It's
see that.
funny.
Yeah.
This is actually my second time going live today. So earlier today, I went live with the USBG, which is the United States Bartenders Guild. Um, Back in 2017, they started this new charity where they wanted to help raise money for bartenders with breast cancer to support
Hmm.
them through their financial needs.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, so they wanted a kind of a healthy way. And the guy who started it and my best friend, one of my best friends, they were working together to start it. So they decided to start this cycling program. So you could ride your bike to raise money. And so my friend Monique was actually the one that's like, hey, you should come out and ride. It was one of their first rides. It was in June in Vegas,
Mhm.
40 miles out
Oh
around
my.
Red Rock.
And had you ridden much before this?
I had never been on a road bike in my life.
Oh, so you just jumped into 40 miles, huh?
I was not going to do it, and I had every excuse in the book not to ride that day. But my last excuse was like, I don't have a bike. And so my friend Monique's like, well, I have to ride the support vehicle that day since she was organizing it. She's like, so you can borrow my bike. And
Hmm.
I'm like,
No, thanks a lot.
okay. So yeah, I got out there and rode, and it was awful because she said I could borrow her shoes too, but I'm like, I'm not riding clipped in on my first time on a road bike because I might die.
Mhm.
So I did it. I went out there and suffered for 40 miles in 110-degree weather.
And
And
that's your
then
first
That's
ride. That's
amazing.
crazy. Most
my
people's
very
first ride
first
are
ride,
4 or 5 miles. So
40 miles with just regular tennis shoes on.
on
Oh
top of
goodness.
clipped pedals.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
then, but how did you parlay that into your 200, 500-mile rides?
Yeah, so I almost got to the very end of that ride before I actually did fall. And then the last leg was down Alta to I forgot the name of the place that it's down there off of Rampart in Charleston.
Mhm.
It's some
Okay.
bar there where we finished. So I just like flew downhill, finished it. They handed me a Negroni because that's what they do for bartenders. They give you a Negroni at the end of your ride.
Okay. All right.
And I'm like dying. And I have a picture of that moment where my face is all red. My hair is like hanging out of the helmet. I look like a skeleton. And I'm
And it's
drinking
like,
my Negroni.
and
And
that's
then
your
I said, And then I said, I need to buy a bike.
And that's your before picture. Your after pictures are pretty awesome as far as your
Yeah,
athleticism.
they're much better. I've worked on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's fun.
So-
So how did you fall? What was the story?
It was just, I was exhausted. I think it
Yeah.
was at mile 39 of 40 miles, and it was on desert foothills right before you turn right onto Alta. So I made it to the very top and was getting ready to turn right. And I don't know, I just went
Oh,
in
Oh.
slow motion
that's scary.
and
Well,
fell
what-
over. And I got right back up and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm tired. It's like, you
Yeah.
probably didn't eat a whole lot on that 40 miles either, did you?
Yeah, I didn't.
it-
They don't know
it-
anything about nutrition and drinking.
It was so much
water.
fun. Here you are doing even more challenging things. So that's great.
Yeah.
So then after you got your bike, you bought a bike, and then
Mhm.
so how did you get into the 200 miler stuff? This really which is ultra endurance events.
Yeah, it was actually the first race I signed up for. I don't know why I did that, but I went to a spin class at Lifetime Fitness and with my friend Lindsay, and there was an older gentleman that was riding the bike next to me, and he was like, at the end of the class, he's like, "Wow," he's like, "You must be a pretty good cyclist." I'm like, "No, I just started." He's like, "You have such good cadence,"
Huh.
and he was like complimenting me on my cadence, and then he's like, "I'm here just to get in shape because I'm training for Lotoja." And I'm like, "Oh, what's Lotoja?" And he told me, he's like, "Oh, it's a 200-mile bike race." And I'm like, "Whoa." I'm like, I have to look that up. So I went home, and that's exactly when registration was open. And it was a lottery. So you have to sign up and then you find out in a month if you got in. And so I'm like, oh, whatever. So I just figured I'd fill it out just in case. And then I got accepted. So I'm like,
And
okay,
how
it's on.
long after your that 40 mile, what was the time
About
distance?
a year and 2
Okay,
months.
I was gonna say, if you had said it was going, like, it was about 3 weeks ago. That's what I was expecting. So,
I
but
did,
that's
I did,
good. That you,
well, I did after I was cycling for 4 months. I did my first century ride and Tour de Palm Springs.
oh, cool.
So I knew I already liked the longer distances.
So, and then as far as moving that into triathlon, so you did that. You did your and the cycling, the long cycling. But
Yeah.
what was the transition into triathlon?
Just peer pressure. I would ride with Lifetime Fitness,
Mhm.
the Green Valley Cycle Group, and a lot of triathletes would be there. So they were always saying, you should try a triathlon. And then I went to some triathlon meeting and I won a free month of coaching with Nancy Jones.
Oh no, there's a start for you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I had 1 free month of coaching, and Sand Hollow was coming up a month after that, free month with her. So I just paid her for another full month, and I'm like, well, I may as well see how it goes.
Well, that timing was like serendipitous, but it was like perfect. You had
Yeah.
3 months, and then you had a month to get, and then in Sand Hollow.
Yeah.
So
And then after I did that one, I was pretty convinced I would never do another one because I did not like it. I hated it.
what part did you hate?
I did not like the swim and I did not like the run.
I know you're a cyclist, right?
Yeah, I didn't I never really swam before. So Nancy was just teaching me how to swim for the first time. And I got that, all newbies get that panic attack in the water, and was like backstroking and doggy paddling all the way to the end.
I think it's a law. You have to do that on your first 2 or 3. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
So that's wonderful. I mean, as far as you got moved into triathlon and you're, the sprint and so there's a big jump between that and Amere. Tell us about how you wanted to go up to. Well, before Amere though, you did a 70.3 before that.
Yeah, the only reason I even signed up for another triathlon is because I got one of those spammy Ironman emails about the inaugural 70.3 in Traverse City, Michigan.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm ever going to do one, that's the one I have to do, because my grandpa was going to be 95 and he lived there. And plus I had tons of family in Michigan because that's where I grew up. So
Oh,
it
that's
was
cool.
just like, okay, this is the one I have to do. So I signed up for that. And I think about 6 months before the race, my grandfather passed away. So I'm like, okay, I'll still do the race, but I couldn't care less like how I do, because like, it's just, I didn't want to do a triathlon anyways, but I was doing it for him specifically.
Oh,
And
that's
then,
awesome.
Well, you had a
2.5.
you had a great
Yeah.
race at Traverse 30, right?
Yeah. I was doing that Cocapelli relay 2.5 months before that 70.3. And that was a whole debacle. And we DNF'd, my team DNF'd. We didn't get it done. And that was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah.
I was trying really hard not to cry on the way home because I'd never done that. That was the one where I was riding through the night, 144 miles with 14,000 feet of climbing,
Yeah.
just because my team was all broken. And
Oh,
and I was like, no, we got to get it done. I'll ride as much as I can until someone can take over. And
oh,
And
But-
they were tired, or they couldn't do anymore.
yeah, a couple of them retired, and one girl in particular was very emotional and didn't want to be there anymore. So when I got into the car, finally, someone took over and I passed out in the van. I was like, just give me like one leg to take a nap and then I can get back out there. And
Oh,
so when
my
I was
goodness.
sleeping in the van, I guess they loaded everybody up and started driving home. So I woke up on our way home.
Oh.
And
Oh,
not
geez.
only was I heartbroken, I was pretty upset.
Yeah, it's like you put a lot of work into this. It's like, I wanted to finish.
So I came home and I'm like, okay, that's it. Like, I need a coach and I'm going to get ready for the 70.3.
Okay.
And so I spent the next 2.5 months training really hard specifically for that race. And then I qualified for Worlds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was your first 70.3 and you qualified for Worlds.
yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You finished fourth, I believe.
Yeah. 4th in my age group.
Yeah,
No,
that's
that is
awesome.
really amazing. I mean, you're an endurance athlete at heart,
Yeah.
both in heart and both, physiologically in heart. You're obviously
Mhm.
very good at it. So from going from that success as Traverse City, and how did you start getting this in the direction of Challenge Amere? I mean, where did this come in?
So I'm an ambassador for Ruby. I don't know
Mhm.
if you guys all know Ruby or familiar with them. It's like
How did you
Zwift, but-
become an ambassador for Ruby?
Well, because during COVID, I got super addicted to it. I had the free trial for Ruby and I had the free trial for Zwift. And I just fell in love with Ruby during the free trial. So I'm like, okay, sorry, I'll pay for my annual membership. And then I started making a bunch of YouTube videos about my addiction. So I kind of caught their attention and they reached out and asked if I wanted to be an ambassador. And I'm like, I may as well. I'm already doing everything an ambassador would do.
And they have nice kits. I mean, they're nice tri-suits. Yeah.
Well, actually, I had that one custom made through
Oh, okay.
Synergy wetsuits. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's,
So-
so you got the entry for Challenge Amere from Ruby? Is how?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they hooked me up with the entry and they asked me to represent them in any challenge race at the end of the year in Europe.
Oh, nice.
So-
So, and the challenge is very big in Europe, especially, and they have lots of different options.
Yeah.
So why did you choose Amere-Amsterdam?
So remember me telling you this story about my friend who made me ride her road bike?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
She lives in Amsterdam now.
Oh,
And so I'm like, well, this is perfect. She just moved there a year ago or 2 years ago. I can't remember. During COVID.
okay.
And so I haven't seen her since she left Las Vegas. And I was
Mm.
really looking forward to seeing her. And I'm like, oh, here's a perfect opportunity.
That's
So,
awesome. All right. So
um,
now how much lead time to the race did you have to prepare for it?
Well, they reached out to me 5 months before the race and asked if I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I love it. Okay. So then what did your training look like going into it? I mean, did you just start right away or how did you approach it?
No, I was pretty procrastinated on every front possible. They hooked me up with TriDot, the TriDot system. So I used them for my training plan, which is absolutely, for me, that was just absolutely perfect because I didn't have to worry about dealing with the coach or checking in with anybody. It was easy for me to move my workouts around on different days if like I couldn't make one day.
Okay.
And it was just, it took all the thinking out of it, really.
Mhm.
I could just go on there and, okay, wake up like a zombie at 4:30 in the morning, go get this done, and then I can start my day.
Mhm.
And then with the cycling portion with the workouts, when there's pretty specific about intervals and stuff,
Oh.
I was actually able to download the workout from TriDot and I could
To
upload it
Ruby.
to Ruby. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I could still like ride on any routes and they would just make my workouts work with that route.
Oh, that's
Just
awesome.
just curious, Terry, the 5 months, was that enough time? Was there a TriDot program to get you ready for a full Ironman distance in 5 months?
For me, yeah, I think 5 months would have been plenty if I actually started really at 5 months, but I started more
You
at
put it
like
off?
2.5 months again,
Okay.
where I'm like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And then there was 6 weeks between the end of June until August where I couldn't run like at all
Oh, no.
because I was having hip issues. So, and it
Hmm.
just really hurt to run. And I
I was
could
going to
kind of
ask you
like
about that.
shuffle.
With
Yeah.
your high volume, you know, how you avoided injury.
Yeah, I
So-
didn't.
Apparently.
I love it.
I don't know. I was struggling through the summer. I'm not gonna lie, but I had already signed up for the race. We already made the announcement, so it wasn't just for me. It was for other people. So
Yeah.
I had to. Like, I wasn't gonna back out.
Hmm. So, yeah, so I guess we should go through that. I mean, the race was in August, right?
September 10th.
Oh, September. Okay, September. So you were doing the bulk of your training during summer here in Las Vegas, which is not easy.
No.
No, and so you were doing a lot of your rides on Ruby.
Mhm.
And where were you doing? Were you doing your runs inside too, or what were you doing there?
No, I was pretty much doing all my runs outside
Okay.
in the heat.
Hmm.
um yeah, I would try to get up early, but for some reason the running days I never really did get up early enough, so I'd be out there in the sun,
Yeah.
100 degrees running,
Yeah.
and then the brick runs were always at the peak of day.
Oh,
So
well, that's brutal to get ready, but boy, that certainly, we always say if you can train here in Vegas, you can race anywhere.
Mhm.
yeah.
You know,
So, well, go ahead.
Terry, I was just wondering, knowing that you are a, plant-based, I don't know if you're vegan or
Yeah,
vegetarian, but
I
vegan,
say I'm mostly vegan but 100% plant-based.
okay. And with that kind of heat and that kind of training load and everything, did that diet regimen help with that? Do you attribute
Ever
that?
since I've gone plant-based, I think it's helped me in every aspect of my life, to be honest. I never have issues with anything. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it's 100% the diet or not, but I don't have issues. I don't have health issues. I don't have.
And did you have them before when you weren't plant-based?
Yeah,
Like
I had really bad allergies twice a year, spring and
No
fall.
way.
Couldn't breathe. Really bad menstrual cycle. Like on my deathbed every year with migraines. No more migraines, no more cramps.
That is amazing. I mean, seriously, the fact that you went plant-based and you're okay. Yeah, I mean, that's another session. We're gonna have to talk to you about that later. But
Yeah.
yeah, we need an hour or so, but let's can we move
Yeah.
on to Almere then?
Okay. Yeah.
Tell us about that race.
Whew. So I guess I could start. I want to there's a little shout out to a new friend I made. Her name is Claire Simmons. She was I met her at the beginning of the race because I was there by myself. And so I was just chatting with her and she actually looked me up on Facebook after the race. She's like, I just had to see how you were doing, how were you did, because she's like, you were so calm. And before your first full, she's and she said the first one she did, she contemplated quitting. She contemplated hiding in the portaloo
Oh,
so she didn't have to start. And she said, and I actually cried.
oh,
But I was just so chill because I was just so ready for it to be over. And it was finally that day. And I'm like, yes, it's finally here. And tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to have to swim, ride my bike, or run.
I'm going to take a vacation.
So
I'm gonna
as
take a
long as I
break.
keep moving forward today in like 12, 13 hours, it'll be all be a memory. And so, like I said, swimming is not my favorite. She asked me, she's like, oh, how much time do you think you're going to need for the swim? I'm like, oh, I have no idea. I never swam 2.4 miles in a race. So I said, probably like around an hour and 20 minutes. Like I'm hoping for, like, I gave myself an hour 30 just because I didn't know what to expect. And I looked her up too. She ended up being third overall out of all women.
oh,
Oh,
wow.
my goodness.
Like even the pros, like she's pretty legit. So she's a cool lady, but yeah,
And
the
what was your swim time?
it ended up being an hour and 24 minutes,
Wow.
but it was not my favorite swim. It was in Lake Almere. So we had to do 2 loops and it was my first mass start ever.
Oh, no.
And by mass start, not just with my age group and all the women, it was all full distance
Really?
people.
Oh, wow.
Like 1,000 people
Macking you in the back of
loading
the
into
head.
the water at one time.
Mhm.
And I just remember, and it was a floating start. So I swam out to the buoys
Oh.
and I was just like bobbing there. And it's kind of always been my strategy just to kind of go on the outside. So
Yeah.
like I can breathe. And if I feel panicky, then like I'm at least on the outside and no one's hitting me. But I made the mistake of turning around and I just saw like hundreds of people all around me. And I was like, and then there's still more loading
Yeah.
into the water. And I was
And
It's
there's
like
no way to
they're
get out of
coming.
that.
so I was like, whew, let's take a deep breath. And then like the cannon went off like in that moment. And I'm like, okay, well, here we go.
We're
so-
racing.
And it was 2 loops. So we did the first loop and it was the entire time. There was no opening. There was always
Yeah.
somebody kicking me in the face. And there was
Mm.
so much seaweed on the surface.
Oh,
And you still
Like-
did 120, a minute, hour 24. That's,
Yeah, and
that's-
it was disgusting. Like I would be like stroke, and then I'd have to pick seaweed off my
Oh.
goggles so I could see. And it was always stuck on my arms. And it was just the most awful swim experience.
yeah,
And you're
so
just
far-
getting kicked the whole time. And then so I'm like, okay, at the end of the first loop, it kind of started opening up a little bit.
Mhm.
And then they let the middle distance people go.
Okay.
So all
Oh,
the
wow. So-
70.3
yeah.
people were joining in with
Yeah.
us the second loop. So it was just is probably worse than the first loop.
Yeah.
So did you exit the water and then re-enter for the start of the second
No.
group? Oh, it's all in the
No.
water. Okay.
Just went around the
Yeah.
buoy and kept going.
Yep.
Wow.
So
that-
I even found seaweed in my hair the next day.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. All
It
right. So
was so
that
gross.
swim just sounds like a real epic swim. And so
Yeah.
you hit the shore and your feet hit the ground. You must have felt pretty good at that point.
Hey, I even remember to smile for the cameras
Oh, there you
when
go.
I got out of the water.
That's great.
I was so happy to be out of the water.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now you're going to get on the bike, which is obviously your strength. And
Yeah.
to walk us through that, what was getting on the bike there like?
So it was raining there the whole entire morning.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Jeez.
It was like 70 degrees and rain.
Mm.
So the whole swim, it was raining, which didn't bother me because it was wet anyway.
Right.
And then, so I got on the bike and it was cold, but I was like, thank goodness for this because I was so sick of the heat that I'm like, it could be 20 degrees and I'm not going to complain
Yeah.
because I was so sick of training in the heat all summer.
Yeah.
So I got on the bike and for the first maybe 15-ish miles, I was doing okay. There's a lot of turns and it was on the bike lane, so you
Mhm.
couldn't really pass anybody. I kind of just stayed to the side because there's a lot of people way faster than me. And then I'd always have to wait for an opening to pass the slower people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that took a lot out of me or what. But then after those first 15 miles, when I hit the big open stretch of the road along the sea, that's when the wind hit,
Mm.
like 20-mile-an-hour headwinds
Mhm.
Oh, no.
Wow.
for 18 miles. And then my hips just started throbbing, like I could
Mm.
barely pedal. and I was like, wow, that was at mile 15. For 97 miles,
Oh,
I basically was suffering through it. Just there was time, and the course was
That's
so
amazing.
flat. Yeah, and the course was super flat. So I'm like, okay, even if I like take my time, I should be able to average 20 miles per hour out here, because that's like my strongest
Yeah.
like biking.
mhm,
But there was times I'd look down and I'd be averaging 11 miles per hour,
yeah. Mm.
like
Well, you got a
with
wind
no,
like that. You can't ride it fast into the wind.
yeah, but it hurt. Yeah, so for 97 miles, I was just kind of like telling myself, just keep pedaling, you'll get it done. So the bike, when I was expecting the bike done in about 5.5 hours, and it took 6 hours and 43 minutes. So
Yeah.
I was pretty sad about that.
Yeah, well, but what I'm hearing is just this endurance, mindset that you have. If you're hurting at mile 15, you're right. It's another, almost 100 miles to go to get to the end of the bike rate, and you're still going. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but you kept going like that. So,
And
but hopefully it wasn't damage. It was not something that you had to get repaired after that. Your
no,
hip.
I don't think so. I'm already much better.
Okay.
It was just, I don't think it's, I think it's because I was injured for like 6 weeks where I couldn't even
Right.
run, and I
Yeah.
didn't stop riding because I was like, well,
Mhm.
at least I can ride. And then as soon as I was able to start running again, I went full force into it, and
Mhm.
like was putting on tons of miles. And
Mm.
so I
But
didn't
so
take a break.
then how, but yeah, we got too much to talk about in 5 more minutes, but so how did that run, how did that bike and all the pain, of the bike, how did that, affect your run? What was the run like?
Surprisingly, I remember getting into T2, and I sat down in the chair just to put my shoes on, run shoes on, and I had a little pack of mashed potatoes that I
Yeah.
chugged down before I started my run. And then I looked at, there was one other girl in transition, and I'm like, oh, we really have to run a marathon? Because I never run a marathon before, so I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I got my shoes on and came out of T2, I was like a brand new person. It
Oh,
just
that's
like my
great.
Mashed
hips just,
potatoes.
yeah, I
And
guess
your hip didn't hurt?
it didn't hurt on the run at all. And
Good. Maybe a bike position thing. So hopefully you're gonna get that worked out.
well, no, I got a bike fit like 2 weeks before the race, like the good one at Swanee's.
Mhm.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I don't think it was the bike fit. It was just overuse on my hips.
Yeah.
They
So
were pretty
so the
broken.
run, it sounds like it went just really well. I mean, I've read your post as well that you really were holding back. So
Mhm.
did you have a pace in mind, or were you just going by feel, or how did you do the run?
Well, I kind of had an idea that I wanted to average like 9:30 pace,
Mm-hmm.
like by the end of it. And the first mile I did like in 9:15. The
Oh,
second
wow.
mile dropped to 12 miles per hour because I decided to go to the bathroom, and I could not get my tri suit off. I was stuck in the porta potty for so long. I couldn't get it. It was just stuck.
Yeah.
And then, so then that I felt so great after that though.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, okay, I just want to maintain, like, I didn't know what to do. So I always hear like people like die at mile 22 and they just can't finish those last 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want that to happen. So I just wanted to make sure I stayed fueled and hydrated. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk all the aid stations and eat something and drink something at each
Yeah.
one. And
Wow,
then
talk about
whenever
a
I'm
smart
not,
strategy that
and
you
then, yeah.
pre-planning.
And when I wasn't in the aid stations, I would run no matter what.
Mm.
As I just said, I could walk. I could easily walk here, but if I walk, I'm going to be out here a lot longer.
Yeah.
So let's not do that.
Yeah.
And so I was able, I think in the end, even with all the walking, I averaged 11-minute miles.
Wow.
Great. Yeah.
After
and
after suffering a bike for 112.
and I had way more to give.
Yeah.
I know on the run for sure, I could have cut a lot of time off,
Well,
but I was enjoying myself.
yeah, you hit that finish line and you hit that finish carpet, and you did. I don't know how would you describe that run to the
Dance.
finish line? Yeah.
Like people can barely walk when they cross the finish line, and you were dancing.
I was dancing.
Tell us about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I don't know. That was a crazy experience. So the run, there's 6 loops around the lake.
Okay.
So it's a little over 4 miles for each loop. So you're running past the same people all the time. And by the end of the race, they're all cheering for you. They all remember you because
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the little kids are giving you high fives on each lap. So it's just amazing. So at the end, the energy for me finishing, it really felt like my crowd.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
That's so,
And-
yeah, that's
And I
fun.
know they do that for everybody, which is absolutely incredible. Like the Dutch people were just so welcoming and happy. And there were so many people out there on the course, just the entire race cheering everybody on. So,
Yeah.
That
and
helps.
6 times, I had to pass them all 6 times.
Yeah.
And there was even like this one group of guys that you could tell were like legit runners that at about the second mile of each loop, they would run alongside me, like giving me coaching advice. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the
"Yeah, look
fists?
great." Yeah. That I didn't know. Some other old man was like yelling at me in Dutch, and I like looked at him, and then he goes, "Fists." And I'm like, "Oh."
Oh,
And so-
I'm holding a fist.
Yeah, so I let go of my fists, and I was like, "Oh man, these really hurt."
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So give us a sense of the international experience then in doing this race. I mean, what's your, looking back on it now, how would you describe it?
I would say the international people, like in Europeans, are way more serious about
Mhm.
their triathlons. Even if I was fit, I think I ended up getting 5th in my age group
Mhm.
and qualifying for worlds. So I don't know how I did that.
That's
My
great.
final time ended up being 13:31.
Nice.
But I don't even think if I were like fit,
Yeah.
it would have been really hard for me to get on the podium because everybody there is like super
Mhm.
legit.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
take it
well,
serious.
you certainly were very fit, and the training that you did was put you in the right spot. So how about the course? Did you enjoy that? Did you have time to enjoy, and did you find yourself saying, "Oh, here I am racing in Amsterdam"?
Yeah. On the bike, I think I was able to humble myself and say, you know what, like
Yeah.
I'm not going to be winning anything out here. I may as well just like look at these windmills.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like we don't have windmills like this.
I love it.
Uh, I didn't see any tulips though. I was looking for those.
Oh, yeah. That's a surprise.
Yeah. But no, I was able to like take it in and say, you know, I'm racing in the Netherlands. This is pretty great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So-
It is neat having that type of experience, and so I mean, do you have another international experience planned, or another trip like that planned, or what do you have coming up?
I don't have anything planned.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to ask you. Not even here in the States, nothing, or you
I'm
just,
taking a
well,
break.
I mean, that's pretty okay. You know, I mean, you just completed your first Ironman
Yeah.
race.
but I'm
Yeah.
actually going to say, Terry, you're very unreliable, because I've heard this from you a few times. Oh, I didn't enjoy that. Next thing you're signed up for a 200-mile bike ride. Oh, I didn't like my first triathlon. Next thing you're doing a 70.3. So,
Yeah.
so I have a feeling you've got something else in you. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Terry, this is great talking with you. This is so neat to see where you've been, and what you're doing, and really that it's so neat to see that international experience. I know it's different than racing Pumpkin Man, but it's a neat experience. Any advice you'd give for anyone who's going to go and race internationally?
Okay, so some good advice I got was to put an air tag in your bike bag.
Ah.
That was very handy to know that, okay, my bike's on the plane with me. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Take somebody with you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Like,
Mhm.
don't do it by yourself because it's hard.
God,
that
that's
just-
crazy.
I mean, the hardest ride on my bike I have ever done, and I even like put it on my Garmin because I'm recording this ride. It was 1.87 miles from the race to my hotel.
Mm. Yeah.
'Cause
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
I
You
could
stayed, you
barely
had to-
walk. I could
Yes.
barely walk and I had to go get all of my gear and I was
No.
like, had all the bags on my back. And then I had to ride my bike back and like my bottom was all
Yeah.
chafed and it was
Mhm.
horrible.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
had to make my own bath.
And you're still smiling about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
It's those
you took it in
experiences.
stride.
Those experiences make the best stories, I always say.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, I always say triathlon's an individual sport where we don't do them alone, but sometimes you do them alone, and that's
Mhm.
hard. And
Mm.
that's again, a lot of credit to you for being able to finish and then be able to gather everything together, because that's not easy. Trying to figure out where to get things and how to get back to the hotel.
Mhm.
That's not easy. So
Yeah. Terry, this was one of the fastest 35 minutes we've ever had.
yeah,
So it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and there's raised a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
questions. Would like to have you on again and talk about your training and your diet and a lot of your cycling, a lot of other things. But
Yeah, anytime.
yeah, thanks for being here tonight.
yeah.
Yeah, can I just say one thing about Ruby?
course.
So since I'm an ambassador, and now that I'm not training for this race anymore, I'm actually going to start leading a lot more group rides
Oh,
on
good.
Ruby. So if
Awesome.
anybody wants to do that, try that out, because they have pretty much all of the challenge and the Ironman courses on Ruby. So if you're signed up for any triathlons, you might be able to find the route on there so you can experience it. It's pretty realistic.
And I agree. I love Ruby. I use
Mhm.
it all the time. I use it for every course.
Yeah.
So
So
And
they
how
can
do
just follow me on Instagram because I always post my
Okay.
rides there. And
okay.
That's what I was just going to ask, is how do they find you? All right.
how did Ruby find me?
No, how do they find you on Ruby?
Oh, on Ruby.
Are you? I am Terry B.
I'm Terri B.
Okay.
Actually, I have in my bio, I have the links to all my to my Ruby page
All right.
and my Instagram. So if you go to my Instagram, you can click on the bio
Got it.
and then I have a link to my Ruby page, which will have all the rides, group rides that I plan on there. So I
Very
don't have
good.
any up yet, but we're planning some for November already.
Okay.
And so people can try it out. It's you can also get a 2-week free trial. You don't have to put a credit card down, and it's
Okay.
full access to everything. There's no limitations on the time during their free trial, which is exactly why I fell in love with them.
That's great.
Over Zwift, because Zwift gives you 25 kilometers a day for 7 days. So it wasn't really enough time for me to figure it out.
Mhm.
So that's why I lean towards Ruby. But now, and they also have Strava live segments on there now.
Ooh, nice.
So you
That's
can
great.
race against everybody in the world for those KOMs.
That's great. Gives you
Yeah.
just a little bit more stuff for that training session. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Terry, this has been great. It's really good talking with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you all later. Thank you, Terry.
Bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.